So today is going to be a little bit rapid fire because there's a lot of information to combine the budgeting and saving. But I want you guys to get an idea of what it looks like and to invite you to every fourth Monday afternoon from 6:30 to 8:30. We actually have a free budgeting session where you come in for the first hour, we teach you budgeting strategies. And then for the second hour, you're actually going to work on it because I do believe it's important that you not just attend seminars and learn more, but you implement what you have learned. And we try to make it so you can implement in that moment so that if you have questions while on the call, you can ask those questions to a housing counselor. So after this session, you guys will also receive the email, the link if you want to register for one of those free sessions. We don't have it this month because the fourth Monday lands on Memorial Monday. So we're not going to have it in May, but we will start again in June. I just want you guys to know that homeownership is possible. It just requires some research and maybe some adjustments depending on your situation, right? You can own, it's just there may be some things that you might have to do that someone else may not have to do, right? As long as you're willing to make the sacrifices or put in the extra work that's needed, it is absolutely possible. So I work with a financial analyst who I absolutely love the way she says it. She says, in order for you to stack it, you need to track it. So if you're trying to save money, it is, I wouldn't say impossible, but it is less efficient. And probably you're not going to get the same results as if you were tracking what you were doing from the beginning so you can see trends, so that you can see what's going on with your money to know what you need to change, right? You need to be able to track your habits so that you can stack the money and build wealth, whether it's to buy a home, whether it's to invest, whatever you want to do, you actually need to be tracking, right? And that's everything. Even with our diet, we need to be tracking what we're eating to know if it makes sense. And we kind of rechanged or reframed it where it's not necessarily a budget, because I think that phrase makes some people uncomfortable or feel overwhelmed. When you hear the word budget, it's like restricting. I like to call it a lifestyle management plan. And what that means is you're just really learning how to manage the money that runs your life, right? The money that helps you do all the things that you want to do and maintain a certain lifestyle. You need to be telling your money what to do as opposed to wondering every month, why is it that I'm in the negatives? Why wasn't I able to pay this? Why did this happen? You need to be at the forefront of that and have a plan in terms of where your money goes and what happens. I want to say if you guys have any questions along this presentation, please feel free to put your questions in the chat. If it is in line with what I'm talking about in that moment, I'll try to go over it right then and there. If not, we'll save it for the end to answer some of those questions, okay? So the first thing you'd want to do is to look over your um, how much money you have coming in. So you're looking at your income. And we're looking at any of your wages, your tips, if you receive child support or alimony, if you have pension coming in, any disability benefits, any rental income, any investment income, what money is coming in that you have access to. And this is a little bit different. The investments might be something that you don't touch, right? It's just growing and multiplying on its own. We're looking at the money that you have access to that's going to help you run your day-to-day life. Okay. And we want to now look at the money going out. So we figured out how much is coming in, which some people actually have no idea how much money they bring in every month because they don't track anything. You should have an idea of how much money you bring in every month. If you are a gig worker or a contract worker, self-employed, it might be a little bit different because it depends on how much you work. It will vary in terms of that money versus a W-2 employee or someone who's a full-time employee. You have a set paycheck most likely, right? So there might be a little bit more work involved, but it's worth it to have an idea of how much you're bringing in on average every month. If your income goes up and down throughout the year, you want to budget either the average of that because you know you're going to save from one month versus another, or you pick the months with the least amount of income and make your budget or build your budget or your lifestyle plan off of that, because everything else is a bonus. Everything else becomes money that we can move around. But how much do you need to actually manage your life? What is that bare minimum? Okay. And for us to figure out what is that bare minimum, we should be looking at our variable versus our fixed expenses. In the chat, can someone tell me what do you think a fixed expense is? versus a variable expense. So you can put F equals, give me an example of a fixed expense, and V equals, give me an example of a variable expense. Let me see how you guys are thinking. And I have lots of options on the screen, so you can tell me. You can pick one of those and tell me if it's variable versus fixed. Awesome. I love that. Thank you. So in the chat, Abby wrote a fixed expense would be rent and a variable expense would be entertainment. Perfect. And what we mean by that, so a fixed expense is something that it is the same amount every month. You know how much you have to pay, it's not going to change. So your rent does not go up and down from month to month. It's the same amount, $2,000, $3,000, whatever it is, it's the same amount every month until that lease renews if they increase or decrease the rent, right? Your entertainment, it depends on how much you want to be entertained in that month. So that number can go up or down, right? You control that. And what we want you to do is really sit and think about first, what are all of your fixed expenses, right? Because the variable expenses, some of those we can actually turn them into fixed expenses later on, but we need to figure out what is that total of all of those fixed expenses, okay? So you're going to write all of those down. It's a great exercise because I make people, when you do your one-on-one counseling sessions, we're going to go through line by line on those credit cards and those bank statements and figure out how much are you actually spending in each of these categories. So you might tell me, Tanisha, I think I spend about $100 a month eating out. I go, okay, let's look through all the bank statements and the credit card statements. And then we start seeing and adding these up, and it turns out that you're actually spending closer to $300 eating out every month. That's why we do these little audits, because what we think we spend and what we actually spend don't always line up, right? So we want to do this exercise to figure out what it looks like. An exercise we make you guys do, you can start because we just started this new month, right? Have a spending diary. Every time you spend money, you go somewhere and you swipe your card, write it down, right? It does two things. One, it's making you more aware of your habits because in that moment, you're like, crap, I have to write this down. Do I want to spend this money now that it's on top of my mind that I'm spending that I probably shouldn't be spending at Dunkin' Donuts, right? So it's going to make you have to make a choice. But two, it's going to help you track. So if it is that you have to have Dunkin' Donuts coffee, some people just can't function without their specific brand. They say it doesn't taste the same as when they make it at home. Okay. How many times did you get that for the week? Right? Are you able to cut that down? But it helps you start to draw attention to your spending habits in real time. This is our budget worksheet or a financial analysis worksheet that we give you guys. And really, we're looking at the actuals in the beginning. We leave the projected column empty because we're going to figure out what are you actually doing. And we're looking at the past. So if you're meeting with us now, we're probably going to look at your April and your March statements to figure out what were your habits in the past, right? Because most likely it's going to continue. That's your monthly habit of how you live and how you spend money. And based off of that, see, we have our fixed expenses. These really shouldn't be changing all that much. And then you have your variable expenses, and that can go up or down from month to month. But that's what we're trying to figure out. And the first thing we do is looking at our fixed expenses. Are there ways in which we can lower any of those fixed expenses? Because some things can be negotiated, right? Even though it is a fixed expense. You can potentially lower your student loans by having it refinanced, having it restructured. You can lower your cell phone bill, right? There are lots of things you can do to hopefully lower some of those fixed expenses. And then for the variable expenses, it just depends on how much you use a certain thing or not, right? So you 100% control that. In this example, we wanted to show you kind of, we did the actuals versus what the projected was because we were trying to get to what this person's budget would be. And we see that they were negative $400. So they were overspending by $400 a month. That's significant. And you guys might go, oh my gosh, that's a lot. A lot of people do this and they don't realize it because a lot of that spending is going on a credit card, right? So they're not feeling it in the immediate that they are spending more than they're bringing in. But at some point, it's going to catch up where now your credit card is maxed out and you can't make ends meet, right? So these are the things that we and the patterns that we try to identify sooner rather than later. You don't plan to buy a home or you do. It's even more important when you plan to buy a home because you can't be in the negative, right? When you are struggling, that becomes an issue because if you cannot pay your mortgage, they are going to start that foreclosure process. There's a lot to lose at that point. So we want to make sure we have our budget, our lifestyle management plan in order before we start this home buying journey, right? We want to make sure you have a command of your money before you go on to the next step. A budgeting style that I like, and this is what we help our clients kind of get to. There are lots of different budgeting models out there, and you can graduate to those. But I think this is where we start because we have to get to where how much money you're bringing in at a minimum, every single dollar has a job. So that you never say, I don't know where I spent this, or I don't know where this money went, because you already told it where it needs to go. So we have our fixed expenses, and those are covered. You give yourself an allotment or an allowance for your variable expenses so that you know how much you can spend each month in each particular category. And at the end of that, you should have no dollars left. You shouldn't be in the red, and you technically shouldn't be in the green either. Because if I know I can save $200 a month, let's go down here, then, and I want to put that into my retirement, then I should put that in my budget. That $200 of my paycheck is going to go into my retirement savings. That $150 of my paycheck is going to go into my emergency fund. So the goal with the zero-based budget is where you actually look at your habits and you assign your money so it goes into the correct category and you stick to that, right? And it does take time to get here. I don't want you guys to feel overwhelmed and say, oh my gosh, like I can't do this. Yes, you can, right? It's just some people, it may take them a month, and some people, it may take them 4 months to get it right. The key is don't give up, right? When you fall off the horse, you dust yourself off and you get back on again. Because if you can't master this, it becomes really difficult to do a lot of the other things with your money later on in life because you have to know where your money is going. This, I find this assignment very helpful for a lot of people who are starting budgeting because oftentimes we don't know when money's coming in and out of our account. We just know we have to pay people every month. We get paid and then it's gone. That's kind of the extent of what we know. But do you know what dates people are taking money out of your account? And the reason why I find this helpful, especially for those who get paid more than once a month. So you might get paid bi-weekly, you may get paid weekly. Um, it's helpful because there was a young lady who did a counseling session. She was able to save. She did great, savings. But every month she had about $200 in overdraft fees or late fees. I'm like, why, when you have the money, like you make more than enough and you're saving, like we see that you make enough. And we did this exercise, and she saw that there were some bill collectors, we'll say, or some entities that were taking money out of her bank account from autopay before she had all of the money in her account. So let's say she got paid $1,500, and we'll use these numbers here. Let's say she got $1,500 on the first. And then on the second, over $2,000 comes out of her account. Then she would be in the negative because she doesn't have enough money in her bank account at the time when everyone is pulling theirs out, right? But over the course of the entire month, she's actually bringing in $5,000, right? So for her, what we did was we outlined when everything was coming in and out of her account, and we can identify at what point she would be negative. And all she had to do was log into those accounts and change the due dates for them. For a lot of your credit card companies, you can do that online yourself and change when your due date is, when they pull the money out of your account. If you see that your auto loan needs to be switched, you can contact them and see if they can switch when that date, when that money is being pulled out of your account. There's a lot more control that you have that you need to take advantage of and leverage that to make sure you are not going into the red just because of a funneling error. Does that make sense? Let me know in the chat if you guys understand what I just said, if I need to go over it again. I think this is a great exercise. I do it. I have it for all of my bills as well. So I know when money's coming in and going out so that I'm never in a situation where it's overdraft or I'm taking money out when I know I have a bunch of bills coming up. So I need to have a certain amount in my bank account. Okay. The goal during this discovery phase is to identify your bad habits so that we can now build good habits. We have to figure out what the problem is. It's all about discovery. It's all about just looking at what is the reality of my situation. That is the basis of it. We're not setting goals. We just want to see what is happening. And now once we see what the reality is, now we can put a plan together on how to solve some of those issues that we've identified. There are tons of budgeting apps out there. I still prefer old school method. Like I write mine down. I have a workbook and I go through my budget every month. But you can leverage a lot of these online tools, and I have them as well. I kind of use both, right? There are a lot of free options and there are some paid options out there. Pick whatever works for you. I can't say that there's a right option. It's whatever works because something that might work for me may not work well for you. So on here, I just gave you some examples. Intuit merged with Credit Karma a few years ago, so now they have a little bit more some budget features in there. Rocket Money has a free version and a paid version. Every Dollar has a free version and a paid version. YNAB stands for You Need a Budget. They have a free version and a paid version. So there are lots of options out there that you can leverage. Or if you're old school, you're like, I just want to use an Excel spreadsheet and put everything on, you can do that. The key is to find a system that works for you that you can stick to, and it helps you stay on top of your money. The goal is for you to manage your money and not have your money manage you every month. Okay. So here is a real life, like you're looking at screenshot from my phone because I automate a lot of things. I don't want to have to log in all the time to manage some of my funds. And I'll show you how I'm just using myself as an example for you guys, how I have automated things to help me stick to my budget so that it's not difficult for me to manage it. Okay. So Clio is an app that I was testing out and I just thought it was really funny because I'm a millennial, they roast you and it works for me as motivation. So when you set goals within the app and you blow your goal or you are doing the right thing, they'll send you either encouraging notifications or notifications to let you know you did something wrong. So I like the Clio app for that. So here's just kind of some of what it's saying. Yep, you keep spending money. That's weird. It gives you motivation when you need the motivation. I have split up for my variable expenses, things that change every month, but I wanted to give it more structure and create it like a fixed expense. I have, and I can tell you the amount, that's fine. For my grocery budget, I have $700 for my family that goes into a one pay debit card or account. And I chose that. It's a Walmart card. And I am not endorsing any of these. I'm just letting you know what I personally use. I selected them and I'll let you know why. Because it's a card and it has an app. And every time I swipe that card, the app immediately sends me an alert so I know how much I spent and what my balance is because it's literally a debit card, right? So here you can see in real time. I hate when that happens. I spent $37. The balance was $212. And then after that, I went to another grocery store and I spent $36. It showed me what the balance was on that card. So I like it because it shows you in real time what you're spending and how much you have left. And if someone got a hold of your card, you would know immediately because you'd be notified the moment that money left your account. So this helps me because there were times where we got to the end of the month and we had like 30 cents left. And it's like, well, we're going to be eating peanut butter and jelly or whatever's left in the kitchen because I'm not going over this budget. We already established this is how much we need to eat and survive for the month. We're going to make it work, right? So that helps me stay within my budget without going over. I can't overspend what I do not have. It helps me stay on task. And then for my dine out budget, I have that. So my eating out, I have a separate card. I use Credit Karma. They actually have a debit card now, and I put money on that. And that's what I use to keep track of my spending for when I eat out, right? And it's the same thing like the one pay. Every time I swipe that card, I get an alert of how much I spent and what the balance is. So it helps me visually see how much I have left so I can make informed decisions on if I want to eat out or not in that moment and looking at how much I have left for the month. This has been great for my family because my kids, by default, children like to eat out. They don't like home cooked food. So when they ask for things, I say, okay, guys, this is how much we have, and I let them see it. This is how much we have left for the month. If we eat out now, we won't have enough money to do XYZ. And I know you want to do this in 2 weeks. So do you want to eat out now and not then, or do you want to save it for later? So now they're involved in that budgeting conversation. And sometimes they choose they want to eat now. And sometimes they say, no, let's keep that for later on, right? It helps to start getting your children thinking about budgeting and to help you on this journey, especially if you're thinking of buying a home. Let them know, guys, we are trying to stick to this budget so we have more money to save for our down payment for our house. If we all are part of this now, right, we all can celebrate in our new home in a year or in 2 years. Get them involved. Don't think you need to do everything on the side. Involving the kids actually does help a lot. Okay. So we've gone through the discovery, we figured out what's going on, we created a plan, and understand a lot of it is going to be you making adjustments, right? So nothing is perfect in the beginning. We might create a budget and it doesn't work this month. We have to figure out why didn't it work? Was it because it was too restrictive? Or is it that you were weak and you overspent on something, right? Those are things that we're going to figure out probably for the first month or two so that we can solidify what that budget looks like. In this economy, I think it's important that we always think of ways in which we can save, in ways we can increase our income. So, what can you do to make more money? And what does that look like for you? Okay. We say pay yourself first. You always hear all of the financial gurus pay yourself first. Well, my personal opinion, I can't pay myself first if I don't know what my situation is. If I'm in the red, I cannot pay myself first. I have to figure out how to solve that, right? I need to get to where I'm at least at zero, which means as much money as I'm bringing in is as much money that's going out. And then now, how do I adjust so that I can pay myself first? So there's some analysis that needs to happen before you can automate that paying yourself first, whether it's $5 or it's $100. But we need to kind of go through the process so we can figure out what that number is that we can commit to without getting ourselves in trouble. So the example I gave earlier, that young lady was great at saving, but she almost negated the savings because she had so much in overdraft fees that it started to just, it's like, well, you're really not saving because you're spending it now with these fees. So let's solve this problem so that now your money's working harder for you. Okay? You're going to be tracking everything every month. After a while, I still do, like I said, pen and paper. I have it automated as well through the apps, but I still like pen and paper. After a while, it's going to get easier for you. I have things set up so that I only have to manage my variable expense because the fixed stuff is happening in the background. Okay. And that's what I want you guys to get in the habit of doing. So, how do you increase your income? Can you get a raise at your job? Can you get a promotion at your job? Are there side hustles that you can do, right? Advanced degrees, love them, but you need to do the math. I'm seeing a lot of people going back to school, getting into $40,000, $50,000 in debt to get their master's to make maybe $5,000 or $10,000 extra, hopefully, in the new role with this new degree. Is that a good return on investment? Right? So doing the math to see what can I do so that I can make more money without it costing me so much and going into debt because it starts limiting you later on. Okay? So really do the math. Is it good to get an advanced degree or maybe I can get some certifications that can help me increase my income in the beginning? Okay? Or is my employer willing to reimburse me for some of those costs so that I'm not paying for my degree fully on my own? There's a lot of programs out there. Start asking questions, do research because it needs to be worth it if you're going down that path. Doing it just so that you have the degree, a lot of times right now, it's who you know, not necessarily what you know, making those connections make it worth it for you if you're going back to school to go into debt thousands of dollars. Okay. I want you guys to work smarter, not harder. So really try to figure out what gives you the most bang for your buck. When you're paying yourself first, once we do our analysis, how much do we have left over after our bills, the things we must pay, not our variable fun things, but the things that we must pay, how much do we have left over? Can we prioritize making sure saving is happening? For all of you, no matter what your goals are, you need to have an emergency fund, especially in today's economy. We all need to have an emergency fund. And then we need to have a sinking fund. And you're like, well, what's a sinking fund? That sounds weird, right? A sinking fund is where you determine what that category is called and you set a goal of how much you need to save. So let's say you're planning to take a family vacation next summer and you guys decide where you want to go, you kind of know how much it's going to cost, then you should start saving now. And let's say that trip is going to cost you $6,000. So that means for the whole family, for flights, hotel, food, everything, you did the budget. That means you need to be saving about $500 a month into that sinking fund so that you have that $6,000 when you need it. Okay? That is something we have to get in the habit of. I think as a culture, we've gotten in the horrible habit of just putting it on the credit card and figuring it out later. But when you put it on the credit card, now you're paying what, 30% interest on that money, right? So let's start budgeting for the things that we want to do so that we're not borrowing and it costing us more over time. So this is how I have my life split up, just as a suggestion for you guys or something that you can see. Again, like I said, with a lot of people, we customize what works for you. We're trying to find systems that work, that are successful. I don't want you doing things that just don't work for your lifestyle. Okay? So when I get paid, you try to switch things at the HR level. So you have 3 accounts. So you have one account where it's all of your bills, all of the things that you know you need to have taken care of, all of your fixed expenses for the most part, right? Then you figure out how much do you need to be saving every month. Have HR put that into that separate account. I do not like when you have, I'm saying Bank of America, I'm not endorsing them. I just picked a bank to say Bank A, right? Where you open up a savings account and a checking account. When both of those are together and you are short in your checking account, what do? You just go and borrow, as you say, a little bit from your savings and you'll put it back later. Hardly ever do we put it back later, right? So let's get in the habit of separating it so it's difficult to have access to that savings if it's actually meant for a purpose, especially if it's your emergency fund, okay? So the savings account is separate from your bills, and then you also have a spending account. So I have mine set up this way because now bills are going to get paid. I already have the amount in there. I don't have to worry about it. That is automated. It is happening. Saving is automated. It is happening in the background. HR helped me. They took care of those two. All I need to manage in my life is my spending, and that's all on my habits and what I do. Okay? So I love leveraging automation for that purpose. Still trying to get my parents on board with that. They log in every month to pay the mortgage, and I'm like, why? When you could just press auto pay, like you get paid every month, and you know when you get paid. Like that is something that can be happening because if something happens to you or you forget because life happens and you miss a payment, now you have a late fee, right? Why risk it? Figure out the numbers, make sure you're confident and comfortable with those, and then automate the process as much as you can. Any questions there? I tried to make it simple. It's literally 3 accounts. And even within those, you can start splitting things up even more. So like I said, for me, for my spending account, my groceries are in a separate debit card. My dine out is in a separate debit card. So we can work with your life to figure out what works best for you. That's the system that I found works best for me because I don't like walking around with cash. Okay? So this is explaining what I said earlier in terms of how I broke everything out to keep my life simple. I put things on my credit card, so that's like gas and all of those. But the points that I earn from that, I literally use it to pay off or pay down the card, right? So whatever I spend on the card, I pay that off and I use the points to help me pay that down. So it's not my own money. Or what I used to do in the past is I would earn points, and those points are what I would convert to gift cards so that I can go shopping for myself. So I didn't spend my money to go shopping. I would leverage the points to then treat myself to shopping. Okay? Might be saying, Denisha, you talked about saving, but how much should I have saved? What does that look like? Okay. We all should have at least $1,000 in an emergency fund. And if you don't have that right now, commit that from this day forward, from this day on, you're going to be working to figure out how do I get to that $1,000 in an emergency fund. That's the bare minimum. That is not where you stop. That's where you start. And the goal of that is so that one, it's building your saving muscles. So that you are committing to automating that process to save to get to that thousand. But once you get there, it's how can I actually save for an emergency? Life is really expensive right now. Anything happen with your car, it's easily more than $1,000 right now. So we know we need to be above that eventually. But the goal is to get to that thousand so that if small emergencies happen, it doesn't have to go on a credit card. You have the cash to take care of those things. Okay. Once you get to that thousand, I say the next goal we try to have people get to is 1 month of your expenses. And really, I say 1 month of your paycheck. So whatever your paycheck is, that's the goal because that should cover all of your expenses for the month in theory, correct? And then after that would be getting to 3 to 6 months. This is not something that you do in a month or in a year that you'll have all this money. This is something that we are going to build up to, but we want to make sure you're doing all the smaller things and building the discipline so that it becomes easier to automate even that process of saving. Okay. COVID opened our eyes to a lot of things where a lot of people were out of work. We didn't have the money in our accounts, right? We didn't have that savings. And I want us to be better about managing because we see what's happening in the economy right now. It's really important that we are prioritizing having an emergency fund and having money set aside for a rainy day because it just feels like it's raining a lot these days, right? We talked about having the sinking funds. Good exercise if you have not done it, because we always teach people at the top of the year. Go back and look at how much you spent Thanksgiving, Christmas, Black Friday. Everything happens in that November, December timeframe, right? How much did you spend for the holidays? Can we create a budget for that moving forward? So if I know I spend about $2,000 every year in gifts to give to everyone and holiday food, dinner, all that. Can I start budgeting for that now so that I don't have to put that on a credit card and stress about it every year? Can I automate the savings for that? That's why we have sinking funds, right? You telling your money where you want it to go as opposed to wondering, how am I going to make ends meet at the end of all of this? Okay. Um, I want you to have a house fund. Right now, that's going to be for those of you who do not own a home. That's why you're here. We will call it the down payment fund, right? So you are going to automate saving for your down payment. We'll figure out what that number is when you do a counseling session. But after you buy the house, you don't stop saving. Like that house, that down payment account doesn't close. To me, it just changes to a home maintenance account or a house fund. Because at some point when you become an owner, the toilet's going to break. You're going to need a new hot water heater or a new heating system, right? So we want you to take those same saving habits and transition them for a different purpose. Now we're going to save it for the house and when we have to maintain our home, how much, right? And that number we tell people for after you purchase is usually between 1 and 3% of whatever that purchase price is. So whatever you paid for the house, let's say it's $400,000. Our goal is to save about $4,000 a year in a separate account for when things happen because sometimes they come at you fast and you just need to have that money. Okay. If you're a landlord, then we need to have money set aside for that because sometimes you can't get a unit rented right away and you need to pay all of your mortgage until then. Okay. Take a picture of this screen. I like to give you guys visuals in terms of targets. And we talked about it last time in terms of how much do I need to save to buy a house. And it depends on the program that you are eligible for will determine how much you need to have saved because some of them require as little as 1.5% down, some require 5%, right? and then you still need your closing cost in there. So I tell people budget another 2 to 3% for that as well. So if we're looking here, you can go and look at what is the price of the house that I want, right? What does that look like? If it's $400,000, if I qualify for the loan program or the product, that's 1.5% down payment, then I need $6,000, right? If I don't qualify for that and I have to go to a different product, it could be up to $20,000 that I need to save. Okay, I want you guys starting to think of that and set goals for yourself. And there are people who I know they don't qualify for this loan product. They're closer to this loan product. I still set that goal in the beginning here. I want you to accomplish something. Let's celebrate that. And now let's raise the bar. We're going to keep saving because this is where we actually need to get to. But I want you to see the progress. Because sometimes if we say we need to save $20,000, we're just depressed when we see the six. And we're like, I'm so far from my goal. No, celebrate the six. We're proud of that. You got to one milestone. Now we're going to set the bar again to get to the next milestone until we accomplish the goal, right? I want you guys to start banking smarter. Um, don't have your money just in a savings account, right? If it's just in your regular savings account, you're probably earning about 0.02% on your money, right? Versus a high yield savings account, it could be as high as 4 or 5% on that same money, right? So make your money work harder for you in the immediate, right? This is not funds that you're going to have in the stocks because you need to have quicker access to it. So this will be money that you have in a high yield savings account. I like when people automate those transfers. So again, we figure out what is the amount we can comfortably have leave our account and go into the savings every month, and we automate that process. Okay, you can also do roundups. Roundups, I have seen get people in trouble, and I've also seen it work. Where let's say you spent $1.99 in the store. Roundups mean they're going to round up to the next dollar and they're going to put that penny to make it $2 into your savings account. Great. It automates some sort of saving for you. But if your budget's tight, where you need to have that money roll over to pay for something else in the future, it can get you in trouble. So this is where we start figuring out what works for how your life functions, okay? For our savings goal, I'm a big fan, I said it before, of automation. So this is showing you guys kind of what does it look like. If you said, I need to save our emergency fund, but I am low income, so it's really difficult for me to get there. It's not going to be in a month or two. My goal is to get that $1,000 in 12 months. Well, let's do the math. That looks like $84 a month is what you need to save so that you can have $1,000 after 12 months. Break it down some more. That's about $20 a week or $3 a day. This is when you hear people talk about, oh, that cup of coffee is costing you this, or it's robbing you of this opportunity in the future. This is where it starts to make sense, right? So in order for me to have $1,000 in 12 months, that's $3 a day. That might be your Dunkin' Donuts right there, right? You are drinking your emergency fund. That's how I like to break it down to people. Turn it into you are eating the house because every time you decide to dine out, that is money that could go into your down payment fund and you chose to eat out instead. Okay? So make it real for yourself. Okay. We did the money math. I want you guys to try to figure out where can I get extra money that may already be there, but I'm just not paying attention to it, or I have mentally allocated it somewhere else, or how can I make more? So think of windfalls. A lot of people just did their taxes, they got their tax refund. What did you do with it? Right? Can we set the goal that our tax refund will actually go towards either paying down debt or saving for the down payment on the house? A lot of people take their tax refund, they buy TVs, they go on trips, they do a lot of other things. Can we prioritize what we want to do with that windfall? Okay. When you work overtime, can you give it a job? So my godson is trying to buy a home right now. All of his overtime money, he puts it into a separate account. That's his down payment. So his overtime is very specific. It is so that he can save for his down payment, right? So again, figure out how you can leverage these opportunities to get to your goal, okay? cash back and other rewards, can you leverage those to put it into your savings? A lot of them, even the credit cards, you can take those points and convert it to cash and put it back into your bank account. You can do that. Does that work for you? Or should you use it to pay down debt? Let's start thinking about how to leverage what's out there to our benefit. Because the banks definitely figure out how to leverage your money for their benefit. So you have to figure out, well, if they're going to give me these perks, how do I use these so that it actually helps me get to my goals sooner? Okay. We're in the spring. This is a great time to do spring cleaning. Are there things that you want to get rid of, that you want to cleanse your home of, that you could monetize, right? Not everything needs to be thrown away. Some things you might be able to sell, some things would be donated, but figure out, how can I make some money off of these things? Can I have a yard sale? Can I go to a consignment store? Can I use the many apps out there to try to sell them online? When my kids grew out of their stroller, I immediately put it, I think it was OfferUp was the app at the time. I think they still exist. I put it on there and it was sold immediately. So I didn't have to worry about it. So figuring out, how can you turn those things into cash that you can use to accomplish your goals, okay? We talked about increasing your income already. Again, there's two goals. Money that is long term. I'm going back to get a certificate or a degree so I can just make more money in general. And there's a more immediate. What are the things I can do for a quick side hustle to churn? Right? What can I do so I can make more money now to pay down debt now more aggressively? Right? We have freelance work. If you could cook, can you sell plates? Can you, if you braid hair, can you do hair? I had a young lady, she's like, I like to style people. I'm like, really? And then we worked on that in her meetings to turn that idea of what she did for fun with her friends into a business so that she can now style people, because there are people who need help figuring out their wardrobe, how to help them figure out how to use what they have in their wardrobe and repurpose it, right? So figure out what your skills are and how can you monetize that, because you only have so many hours in a day. Obviously, we want to reduce our expenses. So this is hard. A lot of people get mad at me. Can you cut your housing cost? Are you willing to do the sacrifice to cut it? Because our biggest expense is housing across the board for everybody, whether you're a homeowner or a renter. Housing is your biggest expense. So what can you do as a tenant to reduce that cost? Does that mean you need to live a little bit further out from your desired area so that you can save a couple $100s? But we'll do the math, right? Does that now mean I spend more on gas so it negates itself? Can I live with family and pay them something, but not nearly as much as I was paying for rent to live on my own? Right? This is where we have to start thinking strategically. Make the sacrifice now so you can have an easier, more comfortable life in the future. A lot of us want everything today, and you prolong, I would say, the suffering because it's always paycheck to paycheck living because you need everything now and to enjoy your best life now. And then life is getting more expensive, but your paycheck isn't. So it's getting harder and harder, and you have to work harder and harder to maintain it. Make the sacrifice so that it's easier for you. Okay? Do you need to have a car? Can you carpool? Right? Can you take public transportation? Set a deadline. There's a lady, she said, like literally every 2 months, I really want the car, Denisha. I'm like, I know, but if you get the car, you're not getting the house. So make a choice. Which one? She's like, fine, I'll stick with the tea. I'll keep taking the tea for a little bit longer. Like, we need to save so we can get into the house. If you get the car first, that's a car payment. We talked about last week your debt to income ratio. It is going to slaughter your chance of buying a home if you are at a certain income and now you have a five, six, $700 car payment. Okay. So again, these are things that you can talk about with a housing counselor, with your financial advisor to figure out what we need to do so you can accomplish that goal of buying the house. Yes, you should go over your subscriptions and your lifestyle choices, right? Do you need Netflix and Disney Plus and Hulu and HBO Max plus YouTube? Do you need to pay for all of those things? Probably not. It's a preference. To you, it's urgent, but really, is it? Right? Can you share some of those accounts with other people? What can you do to cut your expenses for a time so that now you can afford the life that you really want? Right? It's a temporary sacrifice for the bigger picture, and you have to be willing to do the things needed to accomplish that goal. Um, I advise everyone because I just did it. I've been with T-Mobile for since I got my first phone in college. When cell phones first came out, it wasn't even T-Mobile, it was Sprint. And I think it was something before Sprint. And I needed a new phone for my son, and it was time for me to upgrade my phone because it was getting glitchy. And they would not give me an upgrade. They were able to lower my bill, but they weren't able to give me the upgrade. I needed all the things. So I switched to Verizon and I got new phones for free. Plus my bill for four phones is 124 a month. Love it, right? That my bill went from $200 down to 124. So that's a huge savings for me in my budget because now I can allocate that money elsewhere. Don't be afraid to check the competitors and see if they can match or do better than where you are right now so that you're saving money. All of the major providers have I don't know how to like budget brands. I don't know if that's the right terminology, but they, for example, T-Mobile has Metro, they have Tello, they have Mint, they have Boost. All of these, their monthly payment is cheaper than the T-Mobile brand, right? Verizon has Visible, they have SafeLink, they have Straight Talk. They have these other options that may be more affordable for you if you go and do some research on it. So find ways in which you can turn that fixed expense, your cell phone bill is the same amount every month for the most part. How can I lower that, right? And that savings, you can take it and put it towards paying down debt, right? So my money that I saved, it says $80. It went straight into $80 more to paying off a credit card, right? How can we automate getting to our goal a little bit faster? Do you need a new cell phone? Probably not. You just want a new one. I actually did need one because they start glitching and shutting off while you're talking, not receiving messages. So there might be some things where you need an upgrade, but do you really need an upgrade? We do not need the new iPhone. I don't know what they're on, 17, 18, I don't know, right? We don't need all the new things. We just want them. So you got to figure out what your want versus your need. When you meet with us, our goal is to say the house needs to be number one or really high up on your list because everything else becomes optional, right? Yes, you may need a mental break. And to you, that's a vacation. Is it a vacation to Paris? Is it a vacation to Mexico? Or is it you go to Maine for the weekend? Right? So it's not that you can't do the thing, but how can we do it within our budget and just be realistic, right? What does that look like? I want you guys to do less of the things that are just eating away of your money and more of the things that are still enjoyable because we want you to enjoy life, but just being more financially responsible with it. Are there free events that you can go to as opposed to paid events, right? Can you do dine-ins with your friends where you guys cook together as opposed to going to restaurants all the time, right? You could buy a bottle of alcohol for a whole bottle for everybody that is still more affordable than the one drink you would get for yourself. How can we be more responsible where we still enjoy life, but we're managing our money better so that we can get to the goal of buying the house? Not gonna lie to you guys, I've said it every week so far. It is expensive out there, right? Housing is expensive. So we have to be very diligent with our money to make sure we can accomplish that goal of buying the house, right? We can't control that part, but we can control what we do with our money. Okay. We talked about making the realistic cuts, and it's okay to say no. I tell my friends no all the time when they want to go out and spend money that's not in my budget. And I go, it's not in my budget. So we can do this or I won't come. Or we can figure out how to tweak it or check me on the next one that you guys are doing. But you have to be okay with telling people no. A lot of us have families where they may be depending on us for money to borrow for their life things because not all of it is an emergency. It's okay to say no, right? Or set up a budget for your family. I have a young lady, she just sent me a message today. She got an offer accepted on a house. With her, we had to work with her telling her brother no because he always asked her for money for random things. I'm like, you have $200 a month for family. That's for your brother, for your mom, for everybody. When that $200 is done, nobody else gets money. That's it. And you're not lying. I don't have it, right? When that money is done, it is done. They have to figure it out because you are not their bank account, right? You are not their bank. So it's okay to say no, get in the habit, right? It's okay. You're not punishing them. They have to figure it out as well. This is something I think is helpful. I believe you can do it as renters. I'm 99.9% sure. You can contact your whoever services your electricity or your utilities, because it could be gas as well, to do budget billing. And that's where they figure out how much you have spent on average in the past year on your bills, on your utilities. And then they average that out so that it is the same amount every month for you so you can better manage your finances, right? So you don't have to worry about in the winter it spikes, in the summer it spikes, but in between it's lower. Right now you can just budget, and we turn a variable expense into a fixed expense very quickly. Okay. So just having those conversations. Last week we talked about the different down payment assistance programs, the different loan products. So we can find ways or find money for you depending on your situation to make saving for your down payment more achievable. But those are going to come from one-on-one sessions because we need to actually figure out what your specific situation is and how we can help you get there. I am going to stop now and answer any questions that you guys have. Let's see. Is a high yield savings account good for an emergency fund? Yes, it is. It is great for an emergency fund. The goal is to make sure you have an account that you have relative ease in getting access to that money, so that if it is an emergency, it's not going to take you a week to get access to those funds because you need it, right? So just paying attention to that, and in terms of the different accounts, I have used Ally Bank for, I don't know, 15 plus years now. And that's not my emergency fund. That's where I just do my general savings. It's a high yield savings account. But the reason why I put my money there is because it takes 3 days for me to have access to my money. So when I put it in there, if I want that money to buy something, I have to transfer it online because they have no physical banks. I have no card. It's all online. I have to schedule the transfer, and it takes 3 days for the money to go from my Ally account back to my regular checking account. So that is where I save the money for vacation, where I save the money for back to school. Like that's where I put all of my sinking funds. They go into that account. And then I have a separate account for when I have an emergency and I actually need access to that cash. Okay? Great question. Any other questions? So I would not put my emergency fund into a CD, for example, because there are penalties with getting access to your money there. So that doesn't really make sense. You're going to lose money in the process. Hopefully it was helpful for you guys to see there's the what I want you to focus on in the beginning. If you do not have a budget, just look at your habits, right? We call it a financial review. Just look at how much money am I actually bringing in every month and how much am I spending every month on various things, right? Print out your statements from April and March. Spend a day and call it a money date. Sit down with some wine or some juice or whatever you want. It's beautiful, right? And just sit and highlight everything and pay attention. Document what's going on in your bank account, in your money, with your money, and see any habits and identify any problems that we can try to solve, right? I discovered I was spending too much in dining out. So that's why I had to solve the problem by giving myself a hard stop. If I ate out with a credit card, I wasn't tracking it. So I cannot use a credit card when I'm dining out. That's why it went on a debit card that sent me alerts so that I automated that process of accountability for myself, right? Groceries, buy one, get one free, sales, any random thing. I would go over the grocery budget just because it was a sale. I didn't need it. It wasn't on the list, but I bought it because it was free, right? It was buy one, get one free. Well, now I'm over my grocery budget. So how I solve that for me, I put that on a separate card so it's not on a credit card because I'm not monitoring it. So that I have a hard stop. So some of creating a budget and having saving habits and really managing your money, it's trial and error. It's figuring out what the problems are and being straight and honest with yourself to really commit to understanding what are the problem areas, and then now let's work to solve those. And that solution might look different for everyone, right? Some people they don't like using cards, they like using cash. So we'll create the budget where you're using cash for some things, right? So it's going to be customized to you, which is why although I love all the financial gurus, at the end of the day, you should still be working with a financial advisor or a counselor to help you figure out what works for you because it's going to look different for each of us. Any other questions in the chat? Were you guys confused about anything? You want me to go over anything in more detail? Let me see where I know people usually have. Because I like to have you guys at least walk away and do something. So this is something you can do, is contact your utility company and see if you can do budget billing so that you can standardize that cost every month, so that, again, you're just managing your money better. You're not going to go over on spending. Um, Give yourself a 24-hour rule. So this helped my mom a lot in the beginning because once she wants something, she just goes online and buys it. It's like put it in the cart and leave it. And if you forget about it the next day, then you didn't need it, right? Everything feels urgent in the moment. It's not. It's just we want what we want when we want it. So if she saw that she was able to go the next day and it wasn't like burning in her mind that she had to have that thing, she just deleted it from the cart because it wasn't necessary. It was just something that we really wanted. Okay. I want you to celebrate your wins. So if your goal is to save $10,000 to buy a house, if you only have $2,000 saved to date, celebrate that. That's a good thing. That means you are working towards your goal. Celebrate does not mean go out and buy a new purse or go out on a trip or anything. Celebrate just means be happy in that moment, and you can figure out what celebration looks like. It could be where you buy yourself an ice cream or you go for a walk or you allow yourself to watch a movie or something. Figure out what that looks like that's not costing you more money. We have become a society where we reward ourselves with very expensive things for every accomplishment. And we can't keep doing that. It's not sustainable. Okay. So I want us to figure out how do we celebrate the good that we are doing so that it motivates us to keep going. Right. I'm not at my savings goal just yet, but I'm getting closer and closer every month. And I'm happy about that. And I do celebrate that every month. Right. So I want you guys to take some of the stressors out and figure out what those are. Right? For that young lady who sent me the message today that she got an offer accepted, we've been working on it for, it will be a year. She started with me in March of last year, right? And getting her family less dependent on her because they kind of just used her as their bank, right? We had to get it to where they were less dependent on her so she could save, right? And then she picked up more hours at her job so that she could pay off her debt and save more aggressively, right? It took her, we're at a year now, but within that year, look, she just got an offer accepted on a house, right? She could have been depressed and quit because she couldn't get the house last year, but we just kept working the plan, right? There's certain things we just have to do when we're talking about money management, and sometimes it takes time, right? It's just going to take you a little bit longer, and that's okay. So I want to say thank you guys for joining us today. I hope you found it helpful. It was a lot of information because it's budgeting and saving, and those are like two beasts all by themselves. But I wanted you to get an idea of what it looks like to start to create a lifestyle management plan, aka a budget, and then what it looks like to start thinking intentionally about saving. Okay. And if you need help with that, we are happy to have you join us in our Money Monday sessions. You could schedule a one-on-one counseling session with us. The goal is to figure out what works for you and to motivate you to keep going because most things are not solved in a day, right? But you need to understand that and not quit on yourself. Not quit on your dream of buying a house because there's money out there, there's resources out there, but you have to do your part to get to it. Okay. So thank you all and have an amazing rest of your week.